What we do at Unicorn, your heart will understand. Special children touch our hearts in ways no others can. We're reaching out to them to lend a helping hand. What we do at Unicorn, your heart will understand.
Hello again, everyone. We hope you're having a great weekend here in South Florida on this early Saturday morning. We thank you for joining us on Dare to Dream, our show that is presented by the Unicorn Children's Foundation. And Sharon Alexander, the executive director, is with us today. Sharon, let's talk a little bit about your background and how you got involved in the Unicorn Children's Foundation.
Well, I have a master's in health science from Nova Southeastern University with a specialization in child development. I also received a lot of graduate training at Florida International University in behavior analysis and child behavior problems. I've been in the field since about 1996, not only working with individuals and families, but also teaching undergraduate classes and working overseas, training other therapists and other clinics on how best to identify these children and make sure the appropriate interventions are in place. My move into Unicorn was serendipitous. They found me. We had a perfect match in terms of philosophy, and I joined them back in 2005. And ever since then, we've been really trying to expand our work in terms of making sure people are aware of these disorders, that they know that there's hope. If we identify them early, we can put in appropriate interventions to help these children overcome some of their difficulties, and that they can lead productive and fulfilling lives.
And, of course, the Unicorn Children's Foundation is dedicated to helping children, not just children, but their children and their parents, their families, and also professionals in dealing with learning disabilities. As we've mentioned on the show many times, the whole concept of learning disabilities is a relatively new field, and a lot of professionals who find themselves in a position of being asked for a diagnosis don't really know where to go. And they don't really have a lot of case studies, I guess, that they could draw upon. And that's where the Unicorn Children's Foundation comes in. Tell us a little bit about how the foundation was started.
The foundation was started in 1994. Our founder, Dr. Rosenblum, his son was at that time 16 months, or prior to that time, 16 months old. He was concerned that he wasn't developing correctly. He had no language. He went to his pediatrician. He was told the child would grow out of it, not to worry. But he didn't. And fortunately, his Dr. Rosenblum didn't accept those answers, and he kept seeking out the advice of other professionals to really figure out what the underlying issues were that were preventing his child from communicating effectively. It took until about a year and a half before he was able to get a diagnosis and identify the appropriate treatment. So we really lost, at that point, half of the child's life where we could have had the appropriate interventions in place, and it may have made a big difference. So he wanted to make sure that other parents didn't go through those same struggles. Right now there's a lot of information and misinformation that's available on the internet, and usually when a parent has a concern, the first place they turn is their pediatrician. There was a study or a survey of fellows of pediatrics not that long ago where our pediatricians were saying that they weren't comfortable identifying a child with developmental communication or learning disorders, and even more so, didn't know where to refer them for the appropriate intervention. So I guess in a sense it might have been better just to wait and see if the child might develop more challenges over time. But what we would like to do is make sure that those parents who have a concern, who identify some signs and really want to make sure that they get the appropriate help, have a place to go. Not only that, we'd love to help pediatricians identify where they can refer these children for further evaluation, further assessment. We have two mobile screening clinics that are available in the community. One that covers Broward, Miami-Dade, and Monroe counties, and the other that covers Palm Beach up through the Treasure Coast. Screenings are absolutely free. They can contact Unicorn Children's Foundation. We can put them in touch with our partners who will be able to conduct those screenings. And
let's talk a little bit about the website, because that is a wealth of information and knowledge and for parents, for children, and for professionals as well. And the website, unicornchildrensfoundation.com. .org, unicornchildrensfoundation.org. And that is where you can find a lot of information. And really, it's dealing with learning disabilities when you don't have a lot of knowledge of behavior modification. It can be very frustrating for parents and for children because a lot of times they don't realize what they're dealing with is a learning disability. A lot of times the children's behavior and the children's reaction to certain stimulus comes across as being difficult to deal with, hard to get along with. And so it can be a very arduous task just defining what it is you're dealing with. And that's where the website, unicornchildrensfoundation.org, can help. And let's talk a little bit about the learning disabilities, because it does cover a wide range of different diagnoses and ADD and on and on. Let's talk about for a moment what all falls under that heading of learning disabilities.
Okay. Well, our organization has taken a stance where it really isn't the diagnosis so much that matters. It's the challenges that the child is having. Unfortunately, in our medical community, because we're still using diagnostic manuals, and within our service organizations and insurance codes, they require a diagnosis before treatment can be made. So really, the diagnosis itself is not what's important. It's identifying what those specific challenges are. So our foundation's a little unique in the terms because we don't focus on a specific disability.
Well, each child reacts in a different way.
Absolutely. You can have one child or two children in a room with autism, and they have very different profiles. So we are not so much focused on the diagnosis, but more focused on the interventions that are in place to help overcome the challenges of each child. So when we're looking at learning, communication, and developmental disorders, we hear the diagnosis of attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, autism, bipolar, dyslexia, dyscalculia. Again, there's a lot of big phrases that go on that describe certain characteristics that we might see, but really are not descriptive of an individual child.
Okay. And again, Sharon Alexander is with us. She is the executive director of the Unicorn Children's Foundation, and we are talking today on A Dare to Dream, the Unicorn Children's Foundation show, about helping families deal with learning disabilities. And let's go through a case. Let's start from the beginning. Let's start off with some, I don't want to say warning signs, but some characteristics that your child may be exhibiting that may lead you to believe that there may be some learning disabilities. Take it from the beginning and then walk us through the process and how it would be, in a best-case scenario, how to proceed.
Okay. On our website, actually, parents can find a section called the Parent Roadmap. Within that section, you'll find two things. One is looking at healthy developmental milestones. It's a simple check sheet, skills that we should see developing in children during certain periods of time. Super simple to follow, just to make sure your child's on the right developmental track. But if you start to see they're missing too many of those developmental milestones, that's really when you need to be alarmed. But some of the idiosyncrasies, which again, I can list them out, may be normal for some children. It may not be really characteristic of a disorder, but there's certainly red flags for us that there might be something else going on if these behaviors appear in combination with missing several milestones. When you're dealing with infants to toddlers, this is from your birth to 2 years old, if you have a child who dislikes being cuddled or has irregular sleep patterns, a toddler who makes infrequent eye contact, if they're not responding, not smiling when others smile at them, if they're unresponsive to sensory stimuli, you can often see drop a heavy instrument behind a child and they may not have no response at all. Irritability, a decreased activity level, they fixate on objects rather than on people, no babbling or delayed language development, not using gestures, because even at a very young age we see our infants waving and pointing to things even before the verbal language starts to develop. And doesn't engage in back and forth exchanges. We play peekaboo with our babies. Well, those who don't engage in those interactions and it's more parental manipulation to make them play that's a